Well, good evening. I think we are live. Oh, we had a squeak. So I hope you're all doing really well. I hope the weather isn't getting you down. It's blowing an absolute gale outside. We thought it would have stopped by now, but what can we do about it? What can we do? So tonight we're talking about anxiety. Exactly what is anxiety? What exactly is it and how can we stop it? And you've got a chance here to ask any questions that you want. Let me just get the computer right as well. So yes, if you've got any questions, post them in the comments. It's a bit late for messaging me now. Can we stop it? Oh. And you've got a chance here to... There we go. And if you can, say hello in the comments as soon as you go live. Just let me know that you're live and you can hear me. Say hello, let me know where you are. And if you have any questions about anxiety, stress, depression, negative worry, anything like that, depression, just post them into the comments and we shall answer as many of those as we can. So thanks to everybody who's been sending their questions and comments through. We get an awful lot over anxiety. So just to let you know a little bit about me, I'm Mark. I'm part of the team at Newcastle Hypnotherapy. Most of the work that I do is anxiety, stress and worry related. I love doing that work because we get great results for our clients. If you haven't had a look at my profile, have a look at the pictures there that are a lot of the testimonials that we get. So it's a good thing to work with, and I love it because a lot of people believe they're never going to get over anxiety and stress. The NHS and medical system say it's just something you've got to cope with, it's something you've got to live with. But in fact, no, we can get rid of it totally if you're willing to put the work in. And that's what we do. We tell you what needs to be done and we help you to do that. So the first question straight away is, what exactly is anxiety? Now, this really varies depending on who you speak to. Some people believe that it's a chemical... a chemical mess in the brain, that the chemicals aren't the right levels, we're too acidic, we're too alkaline, all sorts of stuff. I'm not so keen on that answer. It could be true. The problem is we don't actually go around cutting people's heads open to find out about the chemical imbalances in the brain. However, saying that, there's things that we can do to change the chemical balances in the brain, as well as using drugs. There's lots of other things as well. So really, the way that we look at anxiety, that's people who are into neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis, is that we believe anxiety is nothing but a habit. Now that sounds really strange. We all have habits. Some of us smoke, some of us drink, some of us get up in the morning and brush our teeth. Yes, these are all habits. Some habits are good, some habits are bad. And anxiety is just a habit of thinking a certain way. It's something that we practice. And if we look at neuroscience, if we look at all the research that's been coming through for the last 4 or 5 years, we know that we have this thing called a neural network, which is basically, it's a load of wires in our brain that when we think of one thing, it sends an electric current right the way across to the other side. And the more that we repeat that thought, the stronger that bond becomes together. There's a saying, neurons that fire together wire together, which means that the more we practice something, the better we become at it. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. So to give you an example, if you were learning to ride a bike, first time you do it, you're probably going to fall off, you're going to graze your knees. We all do this as a child. But the more we practice it, eventually we do it automatically. We do it unconsciously. And that's exactly what's happening when we practice anxiety. Now, according to the NHS and a lot of medical professionals, they like to classify the different types of anxiety. There's social anxiety, there's generalized anxiety disorder, there's so many others that are out there. And I suppose those are useful for the NHS. Great for them if that helps them, but for me it doesn't make any difference. So the way that we look at it is that it's a habit, and with habits we can replace them with new ones. So to give you a great example, when we're born as babies, we are a blank canvas. We have 2 fears. One is falling over and the other one is of loud noises. These are natural things that as soon as we hear them, we go into fight or flight mode, and this means we start to push loads of adrenaline around the body, we chuck loads of cortisol out, and the idea is that gives us lots of energy if we need to. Say if like a tiger jumped out on us years ago, it would help us to run an awful lot faster and to get away from the danger. However, today we don't need that. And we do know that when there's too much adrenaline in the system, if there's too much cortisol and it's there all the time, it's actually bad for our health. It takes down our digestive system, meaning we don't digest a lot of the nutrients. It takes down our immune system, leaving us open to attacks, cancer, and all sorts of problems. And really, we don't want to be in that fight or flight mode all the time. So going back to being a baby, we have those two fears of the loud noises and the sounds of, loud sounds, loud noises, falling over, getting lost now. We've got these two fears and we get it. However, very quickly, we suddenly get these new phobias or these new anxieties, as then people suddenly become afraid of snakes and spiders. Now that's really ridiculous because, first of all, very few people die in the UK from a spider or a snake bite. There's no real need to be scared of that, but we pattern that from those around us. So if we ask where does the anxiety come from, the phobia come from, it usually gets picked up by people around us. So I remember not so long back, I was not terrified, but I don't particularly like spiders, but my dad is terrified of them. If a spider crawls across the floor, his feet are up on the chair. My mum, exactly the opposite, it's snakes with her. She believes she's been to foreign countries in a different life, into Egypt. Snakes have killed her or something, or whatever it is, and she's got this phobia. I think she's probably just picked that from somebody else. We can also get these anxieties and these phobias from having an event in our life. So let's say something happened to us that put us in the flight or fight mode, and then what happens is we constantly on edge and we get into that, and if we mentally practice that again and again, that brings anxiety. Again, the more we practice it, the more it becomes. We can now also pick stuff up from the TV. We're watching a lot of violent, a lot of dark, a lot of dangerous programs on a regular basis, and some people say, well, it doesn't bother me, it's the same with computer games. However, I remember I used to play a game called Doom and Quake when I was younger. I used to spend hours playing on it and I'd always be on edge. And then I suddenly noticed one day I was walking around and I was on edge. I was constantly clenching my shoulders. Whenever I was at work and on the computer, I would get into that mode. I'd quite often sit with my hands on the keyboard as though I was playing a game when I'm doing work. And that's when I kind of said, I need to cut this down or cut it out, because it puts us in these states. So it's quite interesting that lots of things can push us into this anxiety mode, and that can include stress, depression, negative thoughts, worry, whatever you want to call it. So there's lots of reasons why we get it. However, it's not really that important. Humans love to know why we have things and why things work, and that's okay. However, one of the things we know with psychology is that if we take somebody and constantly sit them down and talk them through the problems and go through things again and again, they actually build those bridges in their mind, those neural pathways, and they make those fears and anxieties and depressions stronger. So really, we don't need to keep going over the past. What we do need to do, though, is to replace that bad habit of whatever it is with something new. And if you look at those reviews, we've got people who can't drive cars, suddenly are able to do it. We've got people who've got food anxieties where they can't go out for a meal or they can't swallow. A couple of hours later, it's sorted out. Recently, we've had cocaine problems, and again, sorted out. A couple of hours, 4 weeks later, no more cocaine problems. We can call it chemical addictions, but if we replace it with something better, it seems to work, and these are all the same things. So, what we have to understand is, so that you can understand the next part, is that we all have a brain. Imagine we've got a brain here. And at the front here, we have the conscious mind. And this is the bit that we need when we start to do something new. So let's say we learn to ride a bike. We'll get on the bike, we've not done it before, we've got no form of knowledge other than watching people, and we use this part of our brain, the conscious part, to learn how to do it. So we're consciously hopeless at something, but we slowly practice it. And the more that we practice it, this whole habit, this whole action of riding a bike slowly gets through the gate. Now there's a gate in the middle between your unconscious and your conscious. It gets through that gate and it gets into the unconscious side, and the more we practice it, next thing you know, you're just picking up the bike and you're getting on it. It's exactly the same when we learn to drive. I remember when I started driving, there was all this stuff to remember and it was hard and it was difficult, and now I get in the car and I just do it unconsciously. Now we've got so many things we want to do with this, and if you want to play with it to make sure I'm right, is tomorrow morning or tonight when you go to bed or get up, I want you to go and brush your teeth. And normally we'll get up and brush those teeth totally unconsciously. But what I want you to do is I want you to do it with the other hand. And when you do it with the other hand, it messes with that neural network because you're doing something you haven't done before, using a whole different part of your mind, and you're going to find that's a little bit difficult to do. So practice with that and you'll notice the difference between consciously doing something and something unconsciously. So the point I'm making is that unconscious mind here, conscious mind here, and there's a gate in the middle. Now if we want to change the behavior so that something becomes the new unconscious pattern, such as not feeling anxious but feeling relaxed and calm and happy, is that we need to open this gate. There's a gate here which stops the signals coming in. And one of the best things for doing that is self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis allows us to open that gate, allow the suggestions in, and to take part immediately on the unconscious mind. So when we bring clients in, we sit them down, we relax them, we either use self-hypnosis or hypnotherapy. It's a lovely experience where you just sit back and feel relaxed. Yes, we can do it by video chat as well. And the key to all of this is that we take this gate down and the signals come through. Now there's other ways of doing it. If you sit and watch the telly, you sit and you relax and you watch a movie, that gate automatically goes down and it allows the TV program and the adverts to get into your unconscious mind. Some people say to me, oh, those adverts don't work, but the figures do because they spend a fortune again and again doing that. So watching the telly is a great way of bringing it down. Mobile phones, just as good. Another lovely blue screen with a high refresh rate, frame rate, which is very hypnotic. Using your phone, sitting on Facebook, doing whatever you can. Again, great way for the gate to go down. And you might scroll past the adverts and everything, but it does change how we feel. Alcohol and drugs do the same. They take the gate down, and there's lots of different ways of doing it. So we do have to be careful, and we do have to be aware of what's going on. However, for therapy, for changing those patterns, that's what we do. We use hypnosis, we relax you down, we take the gate down, and then we put messages into the subconscious. Other ways of doing it are meditation and mindfulness. They're great ways, except they take forever. Nowhere as fast as self-hypnosis. And the difference is it makes such a big difference to how we react to anxiety. So if you imagine we've got this old pattern which is strong of that you experience something and you feel anxious, we just need to replace it with another one. We make it bigger and this one just basically disintegrates. It's really, really powerful. So some of the tips that we use for stopping anxiety are, first of all, get into the mode where you scan to see how you feel. Quite often with anxiety is people don't realise how bad it is till it hits an 8, a 9 or a 10. But once it starts to bubble away at a 1 or a 2, this is when we need to stop it dead. So the first thing I suggest to clients, and there's about a dozen different techniques that we use, is that bring up a great big massive red stop sign in your mind as soon as you realise you have anxiety, stress, depression, worry, whatever you want to call it. Bring up the stop sign and look at the colours of that stop sign. And that just interrupts the pattern. The next thing we want to do is to bring in some sort of breathing, and there's lots of different breathing types we can do, but be aware that people with anxiety usually breathe in a very shallow way in the top of the chest, which means the CO2 levels are way too high, the oxygen's way too low, and that pushes your anxiety up. So the idea is you want to practice just breathing in and out. So that stomach is moving in a couple of centimeters and out again each time. And just by practicing that, automatically your CO2 and oxygen levels start to regulate themselves to where they need to be. And that helps us to relax. So remember, stop sign, bring in the breathing, and then we can bring on another couple of things to add into that. One is, imagine that you're breathing through the center of your chest or your heart. So use your mind just to focus that your breath's coming in and out through here. And again, it changes your focus, it changes what's going on in the mind. That helps us to relax down. And then also look at your breathing. If you're breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 4, I then suggest you breathe out for 6. Breathe in for 4 and out for 6. And practice this when you've got a bit of time, because this helps with the parasympathetic nervous system. It takes it down and it relaxes us. And the more that we relax, it takes away the anxiety and brings in the relaxation. So just to recap, bring up that stop sign, look at the breathing, slow down your breathing, breathe out more than you're breathing in, and focus on breathing through the center of your chest. And those are great ways for stopping anxiety. And you have to practice this. You've got to understand, you've practiced for ages that old pattern, and when you practice the new one, it takes a bit of time, but the more you do it, usually in 4 to 6 weeks, you should be able to find an anxiety freedom spot. And the more you practice it, the more you feel relaxed. There are a couple of other tips that we can use while we do that. One of the big things I like to do is called anchoring a positive state. Now, as part of the session that I do with every client, is I go through some time in the past where maybe they've been away on holiday, they've been out somewhere you like to visit, and I make you aware of all the things that are there. So first thing I'd do is say, let's look at 3 or 4 things that you could see on that holiday. And it might be the lovely blue water, it might be the colour of the blue skies, it might be the lovely white fluffy clouds, it could be the greens and the browns, of nature. It could be the things you see on the beach. There's lots of things, and the idea is you want to explore them a little bit more. So lie back, just explore that positive time of everything that you can see. And then we'll move on to 3 or 4 things that you can hear. So it could be the sound of the water, the sound of the breeze of the wind, the laughing of the kids or the dogs, the noise of people moving around. It could be the music that you hear. And then just explore for a couple of minutes just those lovely sounds. And then the next thing we'll do is just move on to, how did you feel? How did it feel to have the wind just touching your face? How did it feel to feel the sun just warming the skin nicely? How did you feel inside when you felt relaxed and comfortable? Just go through all these sort of things. And the idea is we build this up as a whole picture so that you can revisit it very easily just by pushing 2 fingers together. It's called anchoring. And really you need the help of an expert to help you to do this well. So the idea is you bring up this beautiful, wonderful experience that you've had before. You might have forgotten about it. You bring it up. And we usually put it into a self-hypnosis track for you as well to put onto your phone, and you can listen to it whenever you want to. And then the process becomes, we bring up that stop sign as soon as we feel the anxiety. We bring in the breathing. We visualize where we're breathing from in the center of the chest, making sure the stomach's moving in and out. And then we bring in this lovely, absolute, fantastic experience. And then what you might want to do with your anxiety is that you might want to say, okay, next time it comes along, I'm going to explore it. How does it feel? So if you think about the bad time that you have, usually for most people, it's black, it's square shaped. If I say to people, if it was a colour, what colour would it be? If it was a shape, what shape would it be? And usually around the chest or the heart, people say, okay, it's here. And I say to them, okay, what I want you to do, I want you to imagine that you bring it out in front of you. And I want you to tell me which way is it rotating. Some people say, I'm not sure. And I say, if it did rotate one way or the other, what would it be? And they say, oh, it's going clockwise. And I say, great. Now, what I want you to do is play with it with your mind, and I want you to spin it anti-clockwise. And this is really funny because people then say to me, it's changed colour, it's gone blue, it's gone green, it's gone yellow. And I say, spin it faster. And then I ask them to bring it back into the chest and say, how does that feel now? And they say, there's no anxiety, it's gone. It feels really good. It's a silly little technique, but that works very well. You can do exactly the same with a good feeling that you've got. If you look at all those good feelings of what you could see, feel and hear, ask yourself, if these had a colour, what colour would they be? And again, put that in your body and spin it round. Spin it so much that it expands all over the body. And this changes the whole physiology. And to begin with, this is work. It's something you're doing consciously, and it takes a bit of work. But the more that you do it, the easier this becomes until it becomes automatic. So that every time you've noticed that tension in your shoulders, you just breathe, you relax, and you actually feel so much better from it. So that's a really nice way to do that. And it's just about getting out of these habits and replacing them with better ones. And again, using hypnosis and self-hypnosis and NLP are powerful, powerful tools. And I just love working with these tools as much as we can. So let's have a look, because I saw a couple of questions came in. Please, folks, do me a favor. When you join me, could you please say hello? It really helps if you could say hello. And also if you could let me know where you are. Hello, Melanie. Hello, Emma. Hiya, Julie in Canada. I hope it's warmer over there than it is here. Hiya, Jody. I'm autistic. I have anxiety. Yes, Anxiety is quite common with people who have autism. I like to think of autism as a superpower. It's not that there's something wrong. It's just rather a bit like you've got your PC system with Windows and you've got your iPad system or your iPhone with the iOS that they use, which is a far better system that I've never got round to mastering yet. And it's just a different operating system. And I think, I know when I did a lot of NLP training, we were constantly talking about autism and Asperger's and all these other things that go on. And it's quite interesting that when people learn to use those extra skills that they've got, they become fantastic. When I had a previous business, we had a little lad came in to do some work experience. He had autism and he was just fantastic. He would bring the orders in, he'd get them unpacked, he'd do it perfectly, he'd do it half the time of all the other staff. It's just, there's some amazing skills there. However, they can be a bit more susceptible to anxiety and stress, and again, working and using these skills can really make one hell of a difference. So yes, we're always happy to take on clients with autism. Let's see. My autism and social awkwardness have led my anxiety tremendously. As a side effect, I have depression. My disability has made it hard for me to pick up on driving because I have a hard time focusing on the road, and also have a hard time seeing out of my left eye. Being aware, accepting everything has made things better for me. Right, now that's interesting. So again, it's funny that we can anchor a negative state. So let's say we have anxiety, and we've had this quite a few times with clients who can't drive, they feel awful about being in the car, they usually knock their self-confidence. So what we would do here is we look for the positive states, the superpowers that we naturally have inside us. One is bringing up those lovely feelings and spinning them. I might do a whole Facebook Live on doing that. However, there's also times in our life where we do feel self-confident. There's times when we have lots of self-esteem. There's times when we can see really well and feel really good. And just by moving people into that good state can take away all that anxiety that's linked to the driving, to the social phobias. So many people now have social anxiety. They don't like being out in crowds. It seems the world's getting a busier place. And again, just by getting out and doing some of the exercises we've just mentioned can make that so much better. See if we've got some other questions there. Hi to Jodie, you're in Nuneaton. Thank you very much. Hi Jill Stewart, you're in Wrighton. Come on guys, let's have a few more people tell me where you are and also how windy is it near you. We'll have a quick sip of tea. Yeah, lots of people don't like crowds. It's a funny thing that it's changed. I know when I was younger, I used to love going to concerts. I used to be out in the... I either worked as a DJ, I was out sort of partying for many years. And today, I wouldn't thank you for going out on a busy Saturday night when it's busy, and I wouldn't thank you for going to a big stadium concert. I'd probably love it when I got there, but the idea of just being in these huge places with so many people around, I would have to use some of those techniques to do that. I've had anxiety myself when I was younger. It was really bad, so bad they wanted to class me disabled. I've not had any problems with anxiety, but it's there as part of life. There's things that come and trigger us, and again, just using what they're doing. In fact, this will probably scare some people, I would rather be on the stage, either public speaking or playing the guitar badly, than being in the crowd. That's how I feel now with it. So it's quite interesting. I feel that when I'm up on the stage, I can work a crowd so that they can respond and laugh and act and do all sorts of things. I'm not the most outgoing people, but, excuse me, there's loads of skills that I've learned that can help us to do that. And it's funny that I've seen people who can stand up in front of people and talk really well for big crowds but are terrified of small ones, and the other way around, especially a lot of disc jockeys. This is why you'll find a lot of DJs drink so much just to get into a state where they can work. It's the same as musicians and band members as well. So yes, if you're going to a concert next week, what I'd suggest is practice beforehand. Practice bringing up that time when you felt really good. Notice the colours, the sensations, where you are. Bring it up in your chest. So if your colour is yellow, if going away on holiday, having a good time and everything else that's going on, if you said to yourself, what are those colours? If your colour was yellow, just the first one that comes to mind is bring it up in your chest, spin it round, let it sparkle, let it glitter, and then spin it more so it expands up to the top of your head, down to the tips of your toes and out to the tips of your fingers, and just enjoy that feeling. And then while you're doing that, visualize yourself going to that concert, feeling totally calm, totally relaxed, really enjoying the night, and practice that beforehand. And again, that rewires the neural network. It takes away the old anxiety patterns. It'll bring that in. And that should help you to feel good. If when you're at the concert you're feeling awful, I suggest you bring up the breathing. Remember to focus on the center of your chest, breathe nice and deeply, breathe out more than you breathe in, and try and just get into the rhythm of the music. If it's a band that you like, get into it, feel it, and just feel good. You might also want to feel the energy of everybody around you. One of the problems with anxiety and stress is that people feel really nervous around people they don't know, and they kind of think that energy is a bit negative. And I've got to be honest, if you're to look around at people and they're enjoying themselves and you're listening and taking everything in, then what you might want to do is actually realize that the energy is quite good. Something else you might want to do, this is a new one I've just learned actually, is if you imagine that you're in a concert and you're feeling nervous, or you're in a pub or bar, whatever it is, what I want you to do is to focus on something in front of you that you can see. So let's imagine there was a stand, a coat stand in front of you. What I want you to do is just to focus totally on that and just look at everything that you can notice about that stand. Notice the colours, the things that are hanging on it, and how it feels to look at it. And then without moving your head or moving your eyes, I want you to start to use your peripheral vision, which makes your eyes go funny, and slowly expand your peripheral vision to see the stand and everything around it. So maybe the bar, the glasses, the people, and then expand it again and expand it so far that it goes all the way, so you can almost expand it behind you. And just breathe deeply and take in all of those sensations. And it's really funny because it takes the focus from the center right the way around. Now, I can't really explain doing this unless I'm working one-to-one with somebody, but try doing that. Focus on something for a minute or two, expand that peripheral vision without moving your eyes, take in more and more information till it goes all the way around. It almost goes behind you, and just notice how you feel, and just sit and breathe and enjoy that. So that's a good little thing to do. Thank you. You're awesome. You made my night. It's the script sing with my mum. Okay, again guys, when you go live, could you please say hello, just so I know where you are, and could you tell me where you are and let me know what the weather's like. It's good we've had all of these. Do we have any other questions? So Jodie, you're going to the concert. I really want you to enjoy that with your mum. Let me know how it goes. There's quite a few other people here, so tell me if you have any questions on anxiety. Okay, so another point I wanted to put across was a big thing that we do, especially with the Anxiety Freedom Program, is that we put a plan together for you. There's all this information out there on the net. There's loads of people giving you advice. Some of it's really good. Some of it's absolutely awful. The key to it is you really need a daily plan of what you need to be doing. So it's worth looking at all the different things that are going on and finding a plan that's good for you. And this is part of our coaching role, is that we look at the things that work for you. Not the same things work for everybody. However, most of the tips will help in some way. But our goal is usually within 4 to 6 weeks to get rid of that anxiety totally. Again, look at my profile, look at the website. We've got loads of testimonials from there. So one of the first things we like to do is to put a plan together of what you're going to do when you get up in the morning. You might get up, you might brush your teeth, and we can use a little mental exercise to feel a bit better while we're doing that. It could then be that you could get up and get in the car, and you can feel wonderful, because instead of just driving and doing it unconsciously, you can start looking around at the different cars, the people going to school, what's the weather like, what's the cloud. So we do all these little exercises, which again start to retrain the brain to be looking for the positives in life. And again, the more that we do this, the more we feel better. The other thing we can do is change how you perceive things. A great example is going to the gym. Going to the gym and exercise is one of the best things you can do to change the brain chemistry, the whole physiology of the body. But lots of people don't like it, and I hated it. I was hopeless at sports at school. You know, I used to have 7 or 8 asthma attacks a day, so I was quite big. I was hopeless at it. They made me do the hurdles one day, and I really damaged myself. It was just such a... I'm glad I didn't see it, but a lot of people did and laughed. So exercise for me was never sort of an option. But then, as part of my NLP training, I did a modelling exercise of somebody who loved to go to the gym. And she would get up in the morning, and she'd start to do this little dance while she's in the kitchen. So she's making the kids' meals, and there's a little voice in her head saying, I'm going to go to the gym. And she would use that to get through all of her daily tasks as quick as she could to go to the gym. And when she got to the gym, first of all, she had to do better than everybody else. So she really put everything into it, and she had to be dressed better than everybody else. And I modelled this, and the problem I got was that for about 3 months, I couldn't stop going to the gym. I was there far too long, really enjoyed it, but then I had to get unprogrammed to cut it right down. So it's really interesting. So there's lots of little things we can do to make us feel better about it, but usually that is something that you need somebody to help you with. It can also be about bad situations. If you're triggered by bad things that go on, again, we can change how that works. I've mentioned before, I had a client who had a bad boss who just destroyed her every Monday morning. She just learned to get into self-hypnosis and just stood there smiling in front of him, and that totally changed the relationship. What is it from Century? Does this help? Okay, Nicole, I don't really understand your question. You've said, what if it's from Century? Does this help? Could you just give me a little bit of information on that question? A little bit more about what you mean, and I can do that. Catherine Latimer. Hi, Catherine. Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're well. I'm glad I tuned in. Very informative. My daughter is watching too. Hello to your daughter. She's really cute. I do see your pictures on Facebook. She's been worried about school. She wants to know if this help is the same for kids. Yes. Now, something I have done a bit of work with is people get anxious over tests, over exams, all sorts of things. And again, if you want to bring up these lovely feelings, think of something nice, spin them round. It's kind of a cheat in your head. In fact, I'll tell you an example. Lovely lady called Cricket Kemp, one of the ladies who taught me a lot about NLP, lovely lady. Her daughter was having a hard time at school. I believe her daughter is dyslexic. Her grades were pretty bad at school. And she taught her some of these tricks, so much so that her daughter got suspended because they thought she was cheating. Okay? They couldn't understand it, that she's suddenly gone from having very poor grades and a friend and suddenly did really well because she was bringing up the really good feeling inside. So I would say for anybody, if there's something you love to do, it might be karate, it might be dancing. Little girls love dancing. It might be just going out for a walk. It's just go out and do that and explore those sensations as you do it. So if you're going for a walk along the beach, what can you see? What do you like to see? My daughter always likes the ice cream trucks, the smell of the chippy, the sea, the dogs, the sand, the stones, all the ones she wants to put in her pocket. And we explore that feeling as we do it. And then we do the same with what we can hear and what we can feel. So what sort of sounds can you hear? Do it as a game every time you go for a walk. But then ask yourself, maybe come back and say, if all of those sensations had a colour, what colour would they be? And then where are they in your body and do they have a shape? And then just sit back and relax and spin that round in your chest. I must do this as a full exercise sometime and do that. It can make you feel better. Another one we can do. Have we got any satsumas left or have we used them all?
Yeah, I've got satsuma.
I'm going to pass me one over. Here we go. She's going to throw this. I'm going to drop it back on. Yeah. Oh, we did it. Okay. There's a satsuma for you. Still got the leaf on it. A really good trick that you might want to do. This is really simple and it's scary, but it works. A trick, a really good trick, is if you feel a little bit nervous, if you're feeling anxious, if things aren't going your way, is to get something like a satsuma or a tennis ball, and I want you just to throw it just from hand to hand. Sounds silly, sounds very, very simple. But what that does, it creates a bridge between both sides of the brain, both the conscious and the subconscious, the left and the right. And you'd be amazed at how the anxiety goes down. So if you were at school and you felt a bit nervous, you could do it with a pen. Let's see if we can do it with a pen. Or you could do it with a rubber, or a razor as my daughter now calls them, and it's scary. Just chuck something from side to side and notice how it feels. A big thing to do is whenever you feel anxious or a bit nervous or scared, is ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how high is it? And then do something like this, just for a minute or two, and say to yourself, now what level is it? And it's scary because it goes down very, very quickly. It's the same with the breathing, it's the same with the stop sign, and it's exactly the same when you do it with the really good feelings. I'd love to do some work. If maybe we should do a workshop in the Northeast or maybe something online, just some extra tips for kids, because I know school is very, very stressful now. My daughter falls out with people daily and then the best friends again the next day later, and I know it gets worse because my eldest had exactly the same. So school's quite a stressful place. So learning those, and especially breathing, again, breathing in, breathing out a little bit more than how you feel, and explore how that feels in your chest. Okay, so again, let's have a look, see if there's any more questions. Please say hello and tell us where you're tuning in from. Most people understand what this. Hiya Phil, hiya Luke, hiya Helen. Do we have any more questions? There was somebody who gave me a question about the sensory, and I still don't know what it means. I think maybe what Nicole meant, she gave me a question which said, what if it's from sensory? Does this help? A big thing to understand is that human beings have different ways of taking information. Most of the people on this planet are visually based in that they prefer to take information in a visual way. So if the best way to look at it is, when I was at school in biology, the teacher, Miss Kitson, as I remember, she used to quite often stand up and read out the information. So that is auditory information. And when she did that, I could write that down so much faster and I felt so much better. That was really, really good. However, some days she would stand and actually write it on the board, and I was constantly looking up at the board and I found that very difficult. And you've got to understand that different people take in information in different ways. It wasn't until years later that I discovered that, first of all, there's people who take in information visually, there's people who take in information auditorily, that's sound, and then there's other people who take in information kinesthetically, that's feeling. And mine was confusing because I was very much auditory with kinesthetic. It's balanced out a little bit now. So you've got to look at the information that comes in. Today we're lucky because we've got video, which means we can take it in visually, we can hear it auditorily, and if we put something on that's emotional, that's the kinesthetic side of it. And sometimes you've got to look at how you learn. If people at school are struggling and you find that the teacher's teaching very visually, but you're very auditory, then maybe what you want to do is try and ask them if they could help with that. I love audiobooks. I love listening to stuff in the car. If I go for a walk through the woods and I'm on my own, I love to have the headphones in, and I go to sleep with headphones in because I take in information so much better that way. And it's finding the ones that match you. So for Nicole, it's finding the way that works best for you. The exercise of looking at things and seeing what you like, listening to things and seeing what you like, and what do you feel, covers all three bases. Excuse me. So one of the things that I come across a lot when I do talks in public about hypnotherapy is I get loads of people who come and say, you can't hypnotize me. It's been tried before and it doesn't work. And usually when I do a room demonstration, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, they're usually the first ones to go under, because I look at people and I can see whether they're visual, auditory or kinesthetic. And this is what a good therapist should be doing. A lot of hypnotherapists seem to miss that because they're not NLP trained, and it's a bit of a shame. So it's finding the stimulus that works for you in the best way, and especially for your kids. So next time you're with your children and you're asking questions, if you said to them, describe last time you went to the beach, if they say, I saw, very good chance they're very visual. But if they say, I could hear, guess what? Kinesthetic. And it doesn't really matter to get too complicated with it. You don't have to take a practitioner NLP course at all to do that. It's just start listening to people as to how they take in information, the words that they use. Years ago, for an example, I did a business meeting with a guy, and we both came out thinking very different things because he wanted one thing, I wanted another, and our languages just didn't match. And I had to, in the end of it, say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go on with this because we just don't get on. In fact, I had a member of staff who then came along when we did work in that place again. It was a disco contract, and he used to find out exactly what everybody wanted, and it just saves the argument. However, this happens a lot in life. We have all these wars because people say, I want this and I want that, and we assume what people really want. You know, it could be, I want a new car, and a different car would be for everybody in the room. It doesn't have to be new, it could be old. economical like me, stingy. So that's it. So yes, that's that there. Let's see if we have any more questions. Don't forget to say hi, please. Hiya, Helen. Thank you for saying hello. Can anybody else say hello? Is there anybody there? Okay, have we got any other questions coming in? I'm just checking them all. Right, there's a good one. Are autistic people too difficult to work with? No. Well, yes and no. Depending how severe somebody is on the spectrum, depending how far somebody on the spectrum, it's finding a therapist who actually gets on with you. It doesn't really matter that they've got to know autism or Asperger's backwards. It's just finding somebody you can trust and get on with. But that's the same for everybody. It's not just about having a disorder, it's about the communication skills that are there. So that can work nicely as well. Okay, so going back to it all, remember, we've got this brain, we've got the unconscious, we've got the conscious side, and we've got this gate in between. And to change these habits, to change this anxiety and everything else that we need to do, we need to be relaxing, doing some self-care, going for a good walk in the woods, watching something nice, listening to some good music, and at the same time thinking some good things to allow these good messages to come in and get into your unconscious. Okay, Jodie, that's the problem. I can't find anybody. Jodie, I do work, I do an awful lot of work now over video session with people all over the world, not just in the UK. There's loads of good people about. But by all means, if you wanted to set up a video chat, we can do that at some point. We can even do stuff over the phone. There's some really good therapists out there. I'm learning stuff all the time. Every day I'm learning something new. There's a good one. I love animal cuddles with my hamsters. Animals are beautiful things if you like them. They scare the hell out of some people. But again, that's another good way of bringing that down. We were talking about this the other morning, and self-care is so important. To spend time with nature, to be around animals, to do the things that you love. It could be things like drawing, but it's about just starting to think something positive, get something positive coming in. As an opposite of that, most people are getting up and the first thing they do is they get straight onto Facebook and there's negative. And again, it brings down that gate and you're allowing negative things to come in. So, it's finding that, having pictures about of the people who make you happy. It's really, this is something I go on quite a bit. I train people to get good at maintaining mental states. We get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we do all these unconscious things, and the next thing you know, we're having an argument with somebody in our head before we've met them at work, or we're driving nice and comfortably listening to the music if somebody cuts us up. And some people choose to get in that negative state and stay there all day. And everything I do with the clients I work with is I teach them how to stop those negative states, how to pick a new one, and how to stay there. Now, I'm by no means perfect at it. I work at it like everybody else. But considering what I was like as a kid when I had a bad stammer, asthma, all of those problems, and basically them wanting to class me disabled at 15, 16, I'm a hell of a lot better than I am now. Learning to be a DJ was a big thing because it meant that I pushed myself to get out of my comfort zone and do that. Today, it's much easier because there's lots of people out there to help you, whereas I had to go and find books and play with what worked and what didn't. And today, it's all been backed up by neuroscience and loads of research coming through all the time. That's really good. Any other questions there, folks? I'm seeing a few more messages. Don't forget to say hello and let me know where you are. Do we have any more questions before we close this off? Okay, so unless we get any more questions, one of the things you might want to do is we have a YouTube channel, Newcastle Hypnotherapy, and there's lots and lots of useful tips, techniques, relaxation tracks, and even more there. I'll post a link as soon as we've finished this Facebook Live. But what you can do is you can go on there, listen to some more, use the relaxation techniques, and it's just about learning and practicing these things. The channel's really good. It's got lots of information. There's new videos going up there just about every other day. So if you subscribe to it, you'll be one of the first ones to do that. Jodie, another question. How often do I do these Facebook chats? I aim every Monday and Thursday evening to do this sort of question and answer type Facebook Live. It just means you can chuck me your questions in advance or while we're on, and I can answer them. Also, most mornings I like to do a green tea time, just where we come on and share a couple of positive thoughts. And again, we put all of these onto the YouTube channel, so there's loads you can learn there. Let me just see, because I think I got another question. No, I didn't, sorry. So yes, we try and do them most days. It's usually just at the weekend that I don't do as much, but if you've got questions, I'll love to get them. If it's something that is a bit personal and you don't want to share, I can do that. You can message me by private message, which makes it nice and easy. And I like to try and use those, but without mentioning your name, for questions for other Facebook Lives. And I just like to know what people are needing help with. Another point there is, what do we do with kids? If kids have anxiety or we have anxiety, it's important that when we're around kids that have anxiety or feel nervous, that we are relaxed and we are calm, that we're kind of the higher self parent that we can be. None of us are perfect. We all try and do the best that we can. But if kids pick up on the states, or they pick up on your anxiety, they can copy it and it can go there long term. And I'm sure that's how I got mine. My mum still is very anxious today, not good under stress. And that's where I got mine from. I'm sure I mirrored it. And I see this so much with parents. I do get a lot of people who come to me and say, my kids are anxious, and when I check them, they're quite a bad state. So it is really worth addressing your anxiety, because we don't want that to develop onto the people around us. And when we've got anxiety, they don't half worry. John's got a question too. John, I'm having a bad reaction to medication, and the psychiatrist won't admit it, that it's because of the medication. I'm helping my mental health, but it's increased my anxiety. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical profession. So it's not for me to mess about with people's medication. I always say to people, go back to your doctor. I'm happy to chat with them. My own experience with medication, and I didn't take it for anxiety, but I took it for other things, and steroids made me the size of a house. The chest got worse. Is that I'm not a fan of medication, because first of all, it's pushed onto people way too soon. It's great in an emergency, but it's always got side effects. And a lot of the clients that I've seen have found that the medication works for so long, and then it changes, and it can react with certain foods. So for me, I like to try and help clients to do it all without medication. If they're on medication, I'd suggest, let's work and get you feeling an awful lot better. Then you can go back to your doctor. So John, if you wanted to work with me, we'd go over the medication that you're taking. We'd work so that you feel an awful lot better. And then when you're ready, you could then go back to your doctor. Maybe I'll have a chat with him and we could do some work to take it down. I've seen an awful lot of clients who have started to get better as they've come to me at the same time they've taken the medication, and then suddenly they've gone off the planet. And it's because sometimes the medication makes you worse before you get better. And as we've talked about in previous videos, it's not just about medication, it's also about food. We know alcohol can drastically affect how anxiety hits the body, but we also know things like artificial sweeteners. Just if you're talking about chemical imbalances in the body, artificial sweeteners, dodgy sodas, pops, colas, are an absolute nightmare. It can make things an awful lot worse. So yes, by all means, John, if you wanted to have a chat with me, one of the things I offer everybody is a free 15-minute chat on the phone, just to go over it, give you some pointers, and to see if there's something we can do to help and to move forward. And again, yes, we can do that. It's shocking how many people are on medication, as that they can cause an awful lot of problems, and of course the longer you take them, it goes worse. My mum's been through a bit of a hard time lately, and she's on a ton of medication. She's just got a problem that she can't feel the end of her fingers, and she's having to wait 2 weeks before she can get back in. And when we look at the little things of all the side effects, some of them even say death, and that scares the hell out of me, as it should do. Helen says that yes, my anxiety, things got worse before they got better, but sometimes meds aren't for everybody. That's right. Yeah, different people have different reactions to them. I have some clients who take something and said it was wonderful for 6 months. Somebody else takes it and feels absolutely awful. it's daft to me that anxiety is just a habit. We can change it with a bit of work. If you're willing to put the work in and practice daily, sort of for 10-15 minutes, practice the self-hypnosis, use the audio tracks that we give you, use the positive mental exercises, there really isn't a need for most people, I'm not saying everyone, but most people don't need anxiety medication. But it's pushed on people and then they have a hell of a time trying to get off it. And again, I've got to be careful because I'm not telling anybody to stop taking the medication, but my personal opinion is that most people don't need it. And when it goes off the planet and it goes wrong, that's when we get a mess, and that's when we get phone calls at silly times of the night. Becky, thank you for your question there. The worst part of my anxiety is the way it makes me feel, how other people's opinions are of me. I doubt myself and I feel like I'm not worth love or affection, so I shy away from it. Now, that's really, really interesting, in that a lot of people with anxiety feel they've got very low self-confidence, they feel that other people don't like them, or there's other things going on. And really, that's not true. It amplifies a lot of thoughts that aren't true. This is where a lot of depression comes from, is that we might actually have a great situation going on, a nice day out at the beach, but what's happening there is we're putting a filter on there that makes us feel awful. And again, that's something when I work with people, and loads of clients say to me, people don't like me. And I say, well, is it really true? Does your mum like you? Does your dad? I go through it, and then people say, actually, people do like me, but you do naturally feel awful about how people feel around you. They don't understand you, is quite often the case. I'm sure lots of you will agree with that. And it's pretty bad. So again, we can change that. It's just a mental habit. You've got to understand that these habits are irrational things, irrational fears that are going on in the mind. And when we do the work with it, people usually say, yeah, actually, it's not true. It's a daft feeling that I've brought up. But again, the more you practice it, the further it goes on. So again, if you need some help with that, I'm always here. Let's have a look at that. Now, water. John says he drinks water. That's really interesting. I've had quite a few anxiety clients who got into a really bad state and would usually go out and do something not so good. They'd maybe go and drink a lot of alcohol, eat a lot of junk food and feel bad about it. And one of the things I've done is I've worked with them, I've trained them to go and have a glass of water or a cup of tea. So they feel stressed, it's time to get up from the desk, have a good drink of tea, cool water, feel something good, and that just triggers moving into a really good state. That's quite good. Jodie Miller, got my mum watching now. Hiya, mum. Any more questions, guys? We're getting some really good questions tonight. Hiya, Jill. Again, when you please come online, please say hello and tell us where you are. Hiya, Phil. Or did I say hi, Phil, before? You there, mum? Come on, Jodie's mum, give us a wave. Send us a picture. Yeah, venlafaxine is poisonous. This is, again, one of the problems we've got, is that the drugs, all drugs do is they either suppress or stimulate parts of the mind or the body. So we've got a problem, and rather than addressing it, and why have we got it, and learning to get over it, the doctors just say, okay, let's give you a drug, and it either makes you feel sort of dozy and down, and it's just managing you, or it's overexciting something, it's stimulating. And for some people that works well, but if I take 100 people and they all take the same drug, they all act very differently, because they've all got a different history, they've all got different diets. We don't know what other drugs they're taking that cause problems. So it's quite scary with drugs. However, as I said, they can be useful, especially in emergencies. But you see, what happened to me was that when I got to 16, they were going to class me as disabled. I was anxious, I was quite depressed, I was stressed at times, size of a house, 7 or 8 asthma attacks a day. And I think that had all come because they started me off with antibiotics. Tinnitus was another one, which comes from the antibiotics. So they started off with antibiotics, gave me drug after drug after drug, to the point where at 16 I'd missed 3 years out of 5 years of high school. I got no qualifications, I felt awful, and they just basically said, look, we're going to put you on disability. And thankfully my dad, who was a director of a psychiatric hospital, dragged me off to see one of his psychiatrists who'd quit. She'd quit because she didn't believe it was helping people anymore, and she'd become a naturopath. And she said to me, change your diet, start exercising, start coming off the drugs, which I did slowly. It was 6 months of hell. But I also picked up book after book after book on NLP, hypnosis, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, loads of stuff. And I started working on what worked and what didn't. And I found out what did work for me. And then, of course, years later, I officially got qualified as an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, hypnosis diploma. And I've used a lot of this sort of stuff, and it works very, very well. It was the same when I had the health food shop. Lots of people used to come in and say, I need this for certain reasons, and I would have a chat with them. And if they didn't need the supplement, they just needed to change what they were thinking, how they were doing, rather than sell them something that wasn't going to work. So it's there, and it works for people, and it works really nicely. Let's see if we've got any other questions coming in. Anybody else got any questions, folks? We've had some good ones tonight. Okay, does anxiety affect people at any age? And I suppose yes, the answer is yes. We're seeing more and more kids now getting anxiety because they're watching the telly. You know, the news as it's presented to us is very negative today. I don't usually watch live telly, but we did yesterday for a few minutes waiting for something to come on the stream player. All it was doom and gloom about China, doom and gloom about America, doom and gloom about Australia and the British weather. And I know people who just sit and watch the news go round and round and round, and they watch the same things, and it stops the mental flexibility. So limiting the TV time for your kids and for yourself is important. It's good to take in new things, but most importantly, I say get out, go for a good walk, try something new, try some new hobbies. If you're going to use Facebook events, have a look. There's loads of things going on there. There's loads of mind, body, spirit events if you're into that sort of thing. Sports and exercise are very good. My daughter, wonderful daughter Emma, she's great. If she's out and she's doing things in the woods, in the mud, in the water, getting sand all over the place, she's far better behaved than if she's stuck in the house on a rainy day on a tablet, which we limit to hopefully just an hour a day or something like that, but she keeps sneaking past. It's amazing how addictive those are. So again, positive mental health things for you and for your kids is really good. Let's see, I turn it off, put music on, especially Queen. Yeah, finding music that you really, really like. Different people like different music. I remember some years ago somebody saying to me that blues music was depressing and caused depression. It doesn't. It depends how you perceive it and how you respond to it. For me, blues music is very tongue-in-cheek. It gets me moving, it's very soulful, it really gets down there, and I love blues music, and there's loads of different types. To me, it doesn't make me feel depressed. It was actually used by the slaves, would you believe, as a way to take the mind off all the problems when they were working on the chain gangs and working away. They would sing to make them feel better. It's very similar to gospel music in an awful lot of ways. So finding the music that floats your boat, as we say, is a really good thing to do. I used to go to a club in Newcastle called the Mayfair. Very heavy rock music, thrash music. It used to come out your ears would ring for 2 weeks afterwards. Quite often at night I'll go to bed and I'll visit that nightclub. I'll go through exactly the process of going in, paying the money, going to the bar, seeing my friends. I can relive that whole sensation, even the smell of the place, the sticky carpets and everything else. You can do that with any place that you've been to, and music's a great way of doing that. Any other questions, folks? Have any of you got any concerns about going to a therapist or using hypnotherapy? Does that put you off, or doing a video chat? Have you got any concerns? That's usually quite a big one when I get new clients, is they're a bit nervous about hypnotherapy. One of the things that comes there quite a lot is that people see these silly TV shows, stage hypnosis, where they get people to cluck like a chicken or bark like a dog. That's nothing like hypnosis or hypnotherapy at all. That's stage hypnosis. It's a bit of fun. I think some people are overdoing it, or just they've got the license to do something silly. The way that it works with hypnotherapy when you come for a session, we don't use it for every session for anxiety, is that you come, you sit in a chair, and it's very much like meditation. You're lying back, you're nice and comfortable, you're totally in control. However, the difference is you're much more aware. Clients report that they're hearing the sounds of the traffic outside much more. In one of the places I work, they hear the conversations of the staff downstairs that they didn't hear before. They feel totally relaxed. You still get these silly things floating in and out of your head, and I tell people just to pass them on mentally without touching them. Same as if you get an itch, you can mentally scratch it. However, while you're going through that process of feeling relaxed, I'm talking to you, I'm using some strange language at times, but we're slipping in subconscious commands, as we call them, or suggestions to get your mind to change. So sometimes people come out of it and say, oh, I didn't go to sleep. You don't go to sleep. I don't know why we use that word sleep all the time as hypnotists, but you sit there and you relax. And a big part of it is I actually record that for you. I do it as a self-hypnosis program so that you can go home at night, in the morning, listen to it, never in the car when you're driving, listen to it again and again, and it includes a lot of these techniques that we teach so that you start to do them unconsciously much, much quicker. Let's have a look. Yeah, Helen Morgan says there's an open day at Urban Zen in Felling on the 22nd of February. Yeah, have a look. There's loads of yoga, massage, Reiki, stuff like that. That's really good. Getting along to events like that, it's finding things that sit with you and that you enjoy. You know, there's loads of people into Reiki these days. I think it's a wonderful thing. Meditation's good, bit slow, but it's good. Yoga's very good. However, what I suggest to a lot of clients is to go out and find something that you enjoy and try it once or twice. And then if you don't like it, don't go back. But trying new things is really good. I get a snuggle blanket. That's a really good one as well. Yeah, finding a nice comfy blanket's really good. And Jodie's just got a good question about what's the best way to go to sleep. If you go to the YouTube channel, there's a track there called, there's two. One's it's like self-hypnosis for sleeping. You might want to try that. There's another one there called the healing pool. And if you find you're tossing and turning at night and you can't go to sleep, what you want to do is to get into a positive thing. So for me, one of the ways I would do that, I would either think about delivering a workshop. If I keep my mind busy, I go to sleep. I quite often listen to a training. But again, I could go back to my old school and visit it bit by bit, think about the things that I would want to do, but I keep the mind busy. Now, if you get to the state where you say, oh, I'm not going to sleep tonight, and I'm going to feel awful, and I'm going to be awful in the morning, that's going to be true. But also if you say to yourself and visualize yourself saying, okay, I'm not going to get much sleep tonight, but I'm going to feel really good about it and have a productive day, you feel an awful lot better about the situation. However, a couple of tips for you for sleep. Here's some useful ones. Is, first of all, give sleep the finger. No, we're not being rude. What I want you to do is get your finger, rub it just above the bridge of your nose, just gently close your eyes. Come on, everybody, let's see you do this. And just rub it, and just find that sweet spot. There's a sweet spot. Sometimes it's a bit higher, sometimes it's a bit lower. Close your eyes. And that's a good way of really relaxing you down. I'm already going to sleep myself now. Okay, so that's a good one to do. You can at the same time just imagine that you're looking at a picture of yourself and a mirror image, and that version of you is starting to yawn really deeply. So just try looking at yourself and imagine that you're yawning, and it's very hard for you not to yawn back. That's something good that you might want to try. The other one that's really, really good that I like is breathing through your eyes. So the idea is I want you to breathe in with your eyes open, and then breathe out with your eyes closed. And that's quite hypnotic. So you can do it either way. Breathe in with your eyes open, breathe out with your eyes closed. Breathe in with your eyes open and out with your eyes closed. And repeat that about a dozen times or until you fall asleep. And this really makes people very, very sleepy. It's a really nice way to do it. Jodie says, can you write these down for me? I probably can't write it all down, but the video will be there on YouTube for you to watch. As part of what we do, when anybody comes in for a session with me, or even if it's a video session, is that there is a load of notes included. So we do go over quite a lot of stuff, but I do write it down and send it to you in an email with an audio track, and that works very, very nicely. Okay, so before we wind this up, we've had a nice long session tonight. Do we have any more questions? Hello to my fellow rockers. Hiya, Helen. Yes. Rock music, I feel really good. Give you a minute. Anybody else got any other questions about the process, what we do? And again, don't forget to say hi when you go live. I'll see if there's any. It's really funny, I did a live this morning. I don't know what's going on with that. I did a live this morning, and within about 30 seconds of me starting it, my mobile phone rang. Some guy was watching it and wanted to speak to me while I was doing it, but he was only trying to sell me CBD oil. So, and then when I did one last week, somebody sent me a naughty picture as well, which made me laugh. So don't do that again, Andy Brown, please. Okay. So thank you for everybody who's tuned in tonight. I hope that's been useful. I will put a link up very shortly so you can go into our YouTube channel and watch the rest of these. Just remember, Monday and Thursday nights we do this question and answer, so if you've got any questions, and then most mornings I'll do something just with a positive tip and something like that. If you want to share this with your friends, I'd be most grateful. You can just tag them in the comments, and it means they'll get a notification for the video as soon as I switch this off, and that really helps. And thanks to all of you who do that, because it does bring clients to me, and I do like to help as many people as I can. If you get any questions during the week, send me a private message if you want, or put it as a comment in the notes. That would be most useful, and again, share it everywhere you can. Most importantly, I give everybody a free 15-minute, we call it a strategy session. It's just basically a chat. If you've got any problems, and we can do this by phone or by video, whatever is comfortable for you, we'll get on the phone, look at the issue, I'll give you some pointers, I'll look at the best way forward, and if it's suitable, I can tell you what we can do to put it right, let you know what it's going to cost to work with me. We can do it as a one-on-one session if you want, and see if that works. I've only got so many of those available each week, but by all means push those forward. And usually what I like to do with clients is, especially with anxiety, is I like to get them in and get them sort of at a point where they're free from anxiety within 4 to 6 weeks. We can modify these behaviours really quickly, and it really doesn't matter who you are. If you look at the website newcastlehypnotherapy.com, newcastle-hypnotherapy.com, there's some testimonials there, even from an NHS doctor in Sunderland who came to us. There's loads of other testimonials, but it's really silly, and it annoys me that anxiety's out there. So many people have got it now. They're using drugs, just trying to manage it, to cope with it, and that's not the way it should go. It's something that we can sort, and we can do whatever we need to do with it. So I hope you've all enjoyed that tonight. By all means, get in touch, drop me a message if you'd like a free phone chat. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.